Alright, the Brainrot era.
Hey internets, it is time for another video on leftist memes. And this one is specifically about an issue I've noticed with communist memes in particular over the last year or so, which is that there is this growing trend of communist memesters kind of entering this brain rot era. You can
Chat, don't you miss watching like one single video for 2 hours? I miss that, chat. I just miss his long marathon session. You know, I miss
Brainrot
it.
is a bit of a buzzword, but for the most part it means low quality, repetitive content that doesn't really have any basis in truth. Let's just jump to this example. California is saying, I should build a high-speed rail system, and Musk coming in saying, no, cancel it, make a hyperloop instead. And so then California makes nothing, that they'll have a prototype in a few years, and that it's concerning that China has been building more high-speed rail systems than, you know, California. With the implication here being, oh, China's successful communism and California is failed capitalism. But really, the main issue here is that the punchline of this meme relies on something that isn't actually true. California's rail program was already failing long before Musk just came in and suggested a hyperloop. And they ignored his suggestion, and then they just continued to waste billions of dollars on their project.
Yeah.
And so the failure is that of DNC project mismanagement, which by the way was based on socialist policies, and it has absolutely nothing to do with Elon Musk. In fact, when Pamphlets, a stereotypical communist propaganda account, posted this meme, it actually got ruthlessly community noted. Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, and he's the one who's been overseeing California wasting $16 billion on their project, not Elon Musk. So,
dude, gas in California is so fucking expensive. It's unreal, man. I love, like, anytime I see someone from California and they tell me about how great California is, all I have to do is tell them that my gas is like $2.50. And you just watch like all of their smugness for California just melt away.
That's pretty dumb, but here's another one. I'm hungry, Javier. Yes, very sad. By the way, I am doubling my salary. Now, this one is even more ridiculous because, I mean, it's basically just saying that, oh, Argentina, libertarianism, bad. But the claims it's making are all entirely false. Argentinian poverty has gone down under Javier Milei. Argentina is one of the most food-secure nations in South America. There is no Argentinian famine going on. But what's even more interesting and more ridiculous of a lie is that the alleged pay raise that's going on here, that Javier Milei allegedly gave himself, was actually an automatic pay raise that was set up in 2010 before Javier rose to power, and he actually canceled.
So their memes are just making shit up, basically. Like, how fucking classic. They just take things, take it out of context, and lie about it. And then they slap a fucking they slap a fucking Wojak on it, and they say that it's the truth.
The pay raise. Yes, you heard that correctly. Not only did he not give himself a pay raise, he actually canceled an automatic pay raise. And again, there is no Argentinian famine. There hasn't been one. This is just entirely fake. In other words, what I mean by brain rot here is that memes from the far communist left are all about disinformation. So any punchline to any poor attempt at humor they're making is always rooted in some kind of lie. This has technically always been a problem with communist memes, as I have pointed out in some of my previous videos. They are essentially just internetified versions of communist propaganda of the past. But lately, this element of brain rot levels of dishonesty has been completely cranked up to maximum, alongside just random name dropping and associations, like this meme right here. Once you learn enough history,
the problem is it actually works. To be honest, like, it actually works because you have people bringing these up all the time and saying like, oh, it's capitalism's fault. Oh, actually it's Donald Trump's fault. Actually it's Elon Musk's fault. And this happens all the time.
You either become a Marxist or a liar, from Sabrina Carpenter. And yes, thousands of communists were uncritically reposting this. Now, this one is actually unintentionally funny for a completely different reason. One, Sabrina Carpenter didn't actually say this, which means it's just more disinformation brain rot, but also the fact that it's not actually true means that this meme technically proves a negative. The communists who are reposting it are actually negating their own point because by lying, and yet them being Marxists, they're showing that what the meme is saying isn't actually true. And even if it was, I mean, Sabrina Carpenter isn't exactly the greatest intellectual of our time, so even if she did say it, it would just be appeal to random celebrity slop. And another thing I've noticed that communist memes have been
it's like fractally retarded.
Appealing to people's ignorance. For example, this one right here. At least we can protest when our police murder us, and then a guy under the Chinese flag going, your police murder you? The implication here
I was wish these people would just all move to China. Right? They should just all move there. I think they should just do it. You know,
is of course that police brutality doesn't exist in China, which is just absolutely not true at all. Rather, instead, there's more of an interesting nuance behind this.
You know what's funny is how many times have you seen people? Because I know I've seen at least 2 or 3 people who are like, oh, I love China so much, moves to China, and then goes, oh shit, I'm trying to escape from China. Like,
which could use its own video, but the TLDR of it, since this is just a meme video, is that in China, people don't really have property rights. At least not in the American sense. And because of this, China can just execute their dissidents. For example, there's a problem known as the forced organ harvesting problem in China, where Chinese government officials will just have someone who's a dissident to a Chinese government policy just kind of randomly kidnapped, and they harvest their organs and then they sell them. No real due process. Whereas this meme is trying to imply that China is some kind of utopia of human rights, which it just absolutely is not. This is a flabbergastingly false thing to imply. And yes, you might be noticing a bit of a pattern here, which is that it's all simping for China. That is another thing that his...
Is it like, maybe it's Chinese propaganda? Yeah, maybe it's just all Chinese propaganda.
Kind of increased in popularity over the last year. The commies really want to say that China is a successful communism. It's false and has been refuted at length, but the thing is, the memes give them a way to just kind of continuously sell that lie, even though it's very obviously not true when you look into it. Like this one, for example. The China man thinks he's a socialist. The guy with a USA hat, and it seems to be an AI meme as well, and then a China guy going down with dollar hegemony. Which, of course, to those of us who know what capitalism and communism is, this is completely nonsensical, because this doesn't actually meaningfully change anything. Currency competition is not when successful socialism, especially when it's 2 different state currencies. In no way does the US dollar competing with the Chinese yuan imply anything about changing the status quo towards either direction of socialism or capitalism. This is what I like to sometimes call cactus divided by cat butt logic. There is no coherent point being made here. So if you ever find yourself looking at a far left meme and just kind of scratching your head wondering what its point is, the answer is that the people making these memes probably don't really understand the point they're trying to make themselves very much either. My guess here is that this is probably some kind of ludicrous association fallacy. They associate China with socialism and America with capitalism, and therefore if the Chinese yuan gains value over the US dollar, then in their mind that means successful communism. Which is weird, because if you actually read Marx, that's not actually communism at all. But again, most communists haven't read Marx themselves, so this kind of brain rot doesn't surprise
It's terrible,
and
by the way. Fucking, I've read Marx.
Gets more ridiculous from here.
I've read Marx, and it's so infuriatingly retarded.
Like this meme. F Argentina. All my homies hate Argentina. Yep, once again, we're back to Argentina.
I did, yeah, I was reading
and
the
for some
Communist
reason, we just
Manifesto.
have the Shrek donkey here, because my heckin' cartoon character needs to agree with my political beliefs. And beyond that, what joke is this even trying to make? These fine gentlemen whose IQ is so high that they don't know how to wear pants do not like Argentina.
The main issue with the Communist Manifesto is it basically asserts that anybody in it asserts that any managers are basically thieves. Basically, it says that anybody that like owns a business or manages other people is basically stealing money from the people who are like the lower tier workers, and it just makes this assertion without any proof.
And therefore, you should not like Argentina. And also the donkey. Yeah.
Which is like, obviously you need, like, as a company structure or the government or like a civilization like increases, you need more people in management to actually increase efficiency, right? Like these managers, and you know, that's not to say that all managers do, like some managers are fucking ass, obviously, right? But the point of having like kind of management staff who are like productivity staff, such as like producers and managers, like C-suite people, the whole point of them is to like actually keep the thing growing and keep it on target. And you need people who are focused on like all of the bullshit, like what's the word, like kind of like workflows, and making sure that the workflows are actually performing optimally and efficiently, and that there's no clogs in them. You need people to do that. And commies basically just assert that they're thieves. that all they do is they sit in a chair and they steal money from the people who are actually working.
That's pretty much it. If you couldn't tell, the Tankie communist
According to
sites
them,
have a very
actually
large
working.
hate boner for Argentina. And for those not keyed in, the reason for this is fairly simple. Because Argentina elected Javier Milei, who is of the Libertarian Party, and thus largely pushes economic
Milei
and
is
state
awesome.
policies that go against communist thinking. However, the commies have a problem, which is that Argentina has largely been doing quite well under Javier Milei. Poverty is down, inflation is down, and even the rent went down, which is something the Tankies really don't like, because they're always harping on about their rent control idea, despite the fact that rent control has been proven
the wall
many times do not work. And yet Javier comes in, applies some basic economics, and rent actually goes down. So in other words, the reason they hate Argentina is because Argentina has been embarrassing them. It's been showing that their ideology doesn't actually work. And so what do? Very simple. They just kind of lie about it. Like with this meme right here. Argentina becomes moneyless state, and then Mao going, son, I'm proud of you. With a little graph showing the Argentine peso versus the United States dollar going down. The implication here being that the peso has become worthless under Javier's administration. Which is not actually true at all, of course. Because this graph is actually showing the result of the inflation before Javier's administration came into being. And when you look at the same graph where it's actually including his administration, you can see that the decrease has actually started to flatten out, which means the inflation rate has gone massively down. And so the entire point that this meme is trying to make here relies entirely on extreme economic illiteracy. And also just an attempt to blame Javier for the problems caused by the previous socialist administration. And this thing of them posting the Argentine peso and trying...
The problem with them is that the commies is that the truth is never on their side. So they just get fucked every time. Anytime they can't lie, anytime they can't lie and they can't run from an inquiry, they basically just lose.
Trying to pin it on Milei, it's actually something that they've been doing over and over and over again. And that's what really makes it brain rot. Take a point that is based on false information or fallacious reasoning and just spam it nonstop. The fact that it's been refuted 1,000 times doesn't really matter to them, because it is, again, a very easy thing to refute. If you just look at the overall graph of Argentinian inflation, it becomes very obvious that inflation was growing before he took office. He then takes office, his policies go into effect, and kerplunk. They're basically blaming Milei for this part of the graph, hoping that nobody notices
show you this
that
graph.
he wasn't actually in office during this part.
You gotta see this graph, chat. It's crazy. Holy fuck. Look at that. Fucking crazy. Went all the way down when he got in.
This part of the graph. That's effectively their argument. Very obviously false, very dumb. Because what's happening here is that communists have honestly kind of lost the debate on factual grounds, but they still want to spread their ideology. And so the only option they really have is to just lie. And that's what we're seeing in the brain rot era of communist memes. It's just another extension of what I pointed out in my previous video. Repeat false narratives until they become true. Which again, in many ways, is something that hasn't really changed much. For instance, they're still posting memes like this one, where it's just a big newtsy symbol, and you got the Republicans and the Democrats at the end of this. Basically the same old grift of everybody that isn't us is a massive newtsy. The difference is it has simply been cranked up to levels of total reality disconnection. Like this one right here. Capitalism. Just work harder, bro. Rent, healthcare, groceries going up, and record corporate profits. And then under communism, it's a magical utopia where everybody has housing, and free healthcare, and free food, and free this, and free that. People's library, community clinic. Bro, we literally built housing for everyone. And look, even the sun is smiling, which of course just basic history shows you this is totally wrong and the exact opposite of what actually happens. The communist regimes have never had a quality of life higher than the countries that allow for more free market policies than they do. But they could never really acknowledge that or cop
they can't point to it ever. And every time you point to it, they say, well, it wasn't done properly. This time we'll do it right.
Admitting that their ideology doesn't work. And this reveals why they lie, because lying and cope is really all that they have.
And it's not even that complicated either. All you have to do is understand human nature. Human nature and incentive. And if you understand those things, then it's obvious that it doesn't work.
They've lost the game on the playing field of reality, and so thus the only strategy for them to keep playing is to create their own reality. Create a new playing field where lying is just an alternative fact, bro. And part of the reason they do this is because a lot of the tankies, the communists who defend the old communist regimes of the day, a lot of them are showing the negative effects of living in this alternative reality by showing how they suffer from terminal dichotomy brain. For example, this meme right here. A groundhog with the Iranian flag pushing back China and a bunch of others, saying, let me solo them. Now, to many people, this might just seem confusing, but if you understand the Tankie mindset, it's actually entirely expected. Tankie communists tend to think that because the West has a lot of corruption, then violent regimes like Iran must therefore be the good guys. There must always be good guys and bad guys. And because a lot of Western mainstream media is just propaganda schlop, then that therefore means that a lot of the Chinese and Iranian media must be telling the truth. Which is completely insane, but that's what happens when you have dichotomy brain. And so yes, a lot of them actually really do unironically support the Ayatollah government of the Iranian Revolution. For instance, look at this meme right here. Hey guys, I wonder why GPU prices are so high, lol. And then just a bunch of Marxist theory, concluding in Death to America and its coalition. Yes, there actually is a fusion of radical Islam.
This is fucking real life. Oh my god, man. Dude, I don't know about you guys, but it just feels to me like shit is so cooked. It feels so cooked because like people are just so retarded nowadays. It's unreal.
Communist ideology that is going on right now. That is the level of brain rot and disconnection from reality that we're dealing with here. And let's not forget, for the cherry on top, Garfield memes. Stalin killed millions of Nazis. Again, another meme where the punchline relies on an alternative reality, where the deaths during World War II were the only deaths that happened under Stalin's regime. Completely
do they not know that it could be both at the same time?
Millions of their own citizens that they killed, and completely ignoring the millions that died during the Holodomor, none of whom were Nazis. But that doesn't matter to the communists. What matters is that they can say that they're Nazis, and then use that claim to just ignore reality.
I'm not gonna lie. This picture of commies just lives rent-free in my mind.
Okay, that millions of people starved. The only people who starved were Nazis. How did the regime ensure that the only people who starved to death were Nazis? Magic fairy dust, I guess. Who knows? But ultimately, the conclusion here is that what we are seeing is the fact that communism in the year 2026 has become all about quantity over quality. If they could just spam enough falsehoods and get enough people to repeat those falsehoods, then they don't actually have to focus on the quality of actually engaging with people who are refuting them. In fact, their main incentive is not engage with any of them.
You are my slave now. No, actually, if you wanted this to be accurate, you would have this guy on here saying, you're my slave now, and then you would have this guy again on the next line saying, want to buy some slaves to this dude. That's how that would be accurate, right? Your land and some of your women are mine now. It's a little bit fair, but realistically, it would be literally everybody saying the same thing. And then you would just have this over and over again with like every single race combination. You're a terrorist? I think you might be right about a lot of them. I mean, for sure. You're the enemy and you spread diseases? I mean, COVID, you know, lab leak, get out of my country, foreigner. Okay, first off, it's kind of true. Yeah, get out. You're coming in illegally, get out. But it's also not really true at the same time because America lets people in all the time that come in illegally. Yes, that's not even true. Yeah, you're a fucking piece of shit. I feel oppressed. Why'd you hit me? You're a racist? Bro. Why are human beings such fucking monkeys? You know what I mean? Like, what is this? This is like monkey war shit, where it's like, it's like they don't understand any of the history behind any of this. They don't understand like just the reality of how humans have treated each other throughout history. And it's like we're trying to like make this like it's some unique evil that's occurring right now. Just so we can have ape war against each other. So we could just have tribalistic ape war against each other. And then like the white people are just big ape right now. And it's like the other apes are chimping out because it's like the other apes are chimping out because they're not big ape. That's basically what's happening. It's freaking ridiculous, man.
Because
it's just so stupid.
Spam. Because one of the things
it's so like animal brain, basically, where it's not actually thinking about the actual situation and what's actually happening and the actual solutions to fix it. All it is like a bunch of screaming monkeys picking up sticks because they just want to beat someone up because they're mad.
Mathematical reasoning perspective, one of the problems with lies is that you can technically generate an infinite number of lies. For example, a mathematical equation, usually there's only one correct answer, but there's an infinite
Wait, like the
number
base
of false
logic
answers.
video? Wait, which one? Wait, is there a base logic video on this?
And this translates into
that.
the world of meme generation with
Oh,
the
from
fact
yesterday.
that it's
All right,
entirely
yeah.
possible to just generate an infinite
I thought
number
it was
of
another
memes
one.
based on disinformation. Which means that my earlier assessment in my previous videos on leftist memes kind of still hold true. Ultimately, in the end, it's all about propaganda. The only difference is that in the Brainrot era we're now in, they've figured out that it's a waste of time for them to even try and hide that fact anymore, instead opting to just spam nonsense until everyone's brain is scrambled eggs. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot.
I went to go get some food today, and I saw another family, and they had two kids. They had like two little girls, and both little girls had phones, and when I mean little girls, they're like 8. They're like probably like 8 and 9, like two of them, and they were both on phones, just like looking at their phones the whole time everyone was eating dinner. It's crazy. Shit's crazy.
And if you want to support me, you can do so on Ko-Fi, Subscribestar, or by buying some merch. But for now, that is all. Thanks again for watching. Till next time.
Another great Mentis Wave video.
When the world turns